Welcome back, Goddess Garden Book Chat. We're at book 14. I'm going to keep my intro short and sweet because the chat squad did a deep dive on How Long Till Black Future Month, which is really a collection of stories. So without further ado, I'm going to let them get involved. Please like, share, and subscribe. I love having you here. Love that you're back. Thank you so much. And let's get to it, friends.
Reflections of strength like rivers flow. In books we rise, and our spirits glow. GGBC reading challenge transforming. February's dreams live as a cycle for bird. We're passing.
Welcome back, fellow bookworms. It's so great to have you all joining us for another deep dive.
Especially those of you taking part in the Goddess Garden Book Chat Challenge.
Yes, 28 days, 28 books.
That's right.
And guess what? This is book number 14. We are more than halfway through.
Flying through them.
Before we launch into today's book, I thought maybe we could just take a quick minute and reflect on the past 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had everything. We had that memoir a few days ago. Oh my goodness, I was in tears. And then the ancient myths we talked about.
Right.
Really sparking the imagination.
So good.
Oh, and then that dystopian thriller. Whoa, talk about a page-turner. So now we're ready for N.K. Jemisin.
N.K. Jemisin.
How Long Till Black Future Month?
Yeah, this is an award-winning collection of short stories.
Ooh, perfect for those of us with, well, not a ton of time who still want to experience Jemisin's writing.
Exactly. A great way to get a taste.
Because I've heard it's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. Blends science fiction, fantasy, and social commentary.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to the audiobook, each story is read by a different actor.
Oh, wow. So we've got 10 stories waiting for us, each one exploring identity, power, social justice. I am so ready. Were there any that just jumped out at you?
Well, The City Born Great. It's about a city as a living being.
Ooh, that's an interesting concept. I wonder what that would feel like.
Right.
How about the ones who stay and fight? This one's about a utopia, but it's constantly under threat.
Ooh, that's good. It really makes you think, is true peace even possible?
Yeah, and what would we be willing to sacrifice for it?
Exactly, because in the story, this peace is actively maintained. It almost feels enforced in some ways.
Wow. I also saw The Matter of the Red Fox on the list. Magical realism, my favorite.
Oh, yes, a classic.
I'm already curious about what the fox symbolizes.
Well, foxes are often connected to cunning and intelligence.
That's true.
So maybe it symbolizes our connection to nature and the untamed parts of ourselves.
Ooh, I like that. Jemisin really blends folklore and magical realism seamlessly.
And don't forget the social commentary.
It's so skillfully woven in. Each story feels unique, but also very relatable.
You're right, and she does this by using those fantastical elements to explore real-world issues.
Exactly. Like she's holding up a mirror to society, but just slightly distorted.
Yes, to give us that fresh perspective.
And it's as if she's asking us, what if we keep going down this path?
It's definitely a cautionary tale, but also a call to action.
And I think the audiobook format, with all those different narrators, really adds to that effect.
Oh, absolutely, because each story has its own unique voice and perspective.
It really brings them to life, doesn't it?
It does, like a theatrical experience almost.
It's amazing how the diverse narrators reflect the characters and their stories.
Absolutely. It makes the whole experience so much more authentic.
I agree, and it really highlights the power of audio storytelling.
For sure.
We can easily spend hours talking about each individual story, but I think it's time to zoom out a bit.
Yeah, and look at the bigger picture.
What are some of the larger themes and takeaways? What do you think?
I'm excited to dive deeper into those layers. I think Jemisin is doing much more than just telling stories here. It's like each one is a piece of a puzzle revealing a larger message.
So what are some of those recurring themes that stood out to you?
Well, the theme of power comes up a lot. Who has it? How do they use it? What happens when it's abused?
Yes, and I noticed the theme of identity, particularly Black identity.
Definitely. And Jemisin shows us all these different experiences and struggles. Black identity is not one single thing.
Exactly, and I think it's important to point out that Jemisin isn't just telling stories about Black characters. She's using their experiences as a lens to understand the human experience.
Absolutely. And this allows her to illuminate issues that might otherwise be overlooked.
How do you see Jemisin using science fiction and fantasy to enhance her exploration of these social and political themes?
Well, speculative fiction lets her create these what-if scenarios.
Right.
And that pushes our imaginations and forces us to confront uncomfortable truths.
It's like by creating these fantastical worlds, she allows us to look at real-world issues in a new way.
With a fresh perspective, yeah.
And without all the baggage of our own preconceived notions.
Exactly. The power of this collection is that it encourages us to think critically, to question our assumptions.
And to have those tough conversations.
It's not just entertainment, it's a call to action.
And speaking of calls to action, we can't forget the title. How long till Black Future Month?
Right. It's such a powerful statement.
It's like a challenge, a declaration all rolled into one.
It is. Jemisin is asking us to imagine a future where Black voices and perspectives are not just included, but celebrated.
And where Black narratives are woven into the fabric of our culture. This title really underscores the need for representation and inclusion.
And the need to dismantle those systemic barriers.
Absolutely, because Black stories deserve to be told and celebrated, not just during one month of the year.
Exactly. It's about creating a future where inclusivity is just the norm.
I think it highlights that the future is not some far-off concept. It's something we're creating right now with every choice we make.
With every story we share.
With every voice we amplify.
It's powerful.
And that's what makes this collection so relevant to our world today. It's not just about dreaming of a better future, but about actively working towards it.
I agree.
So how does Jemisin manage to blend these complex social issues with speculative elements and still create stories that feel so human and relatable?
Well, she's a master at creating characters who are flawed and relatable. Even when they're in extraordinary circumstances, they feel real.
And she's not afraid to explore those messy human emotions. Love, loss, joy, anger. It makes her characters so much more three-dimensional.
It's that willingness to embrace the complexity of human emotion that makes her stories resonate.
We see ourselves in these characters, even if their worlds are vastly different from ours.
We connect with their struggles, their triumphs, their fears, and through those connections, we can start to see our own world a little differently.
With more empathy and compassion.
Yes.
What aspects of Jemisin's writing style impressed you the most?
Oh, her use of language is incredible. She's a poet at heart, you can tell.
I agree.
Her prose is lyrical, evocative, precise. It's like she's painting a picture with words.
And they linger with you long after you finished reading.
Definitely.
I love how she's not afraid to play with structure and form, jumping through time, blending genres.
It keeps you on your toes, constantly wondering what will happen next.
That unpredictability is so captivating. You never know where she'll take you, but you trust the journey will be worthwhile.
And often it leaves you with more questions than answers.
Which is a good thing. It makes you want to keep thinking, keep exploring.
Right.
Let's take a closer look at a couple of the stories. The City Born Great. The way Jemisin explores gentrification in that story feels so relevant to what's happening in cities all over the world right now.
Oh, definitely. She uses that city as a being metaphor to explore those complex issues of urban development and displacement.
It's not just about buildings. It's about the people who make up the city, who give it its soul.
And how those changes affect their lives.
It's a powerful exploration of a global issue, and it forces us to consider the human cost of development.
Absolutely.
The imagery in the story is just so striking. I can still see those buildings pulsating with energy.
It really highlights the connection between people and place.
And how important it is to protect those places that hold cultural and historical significance.
Yes, we can't let progress erase the stories and experiences of marginalized communities.
The City Born Great reminds us that cities aren't just concrete jungles.
They're living, breathing entities made up of people with dreams and hope.
People who deserve to belong.
Exactly.
And I think that message goes beyond just cities. It reminds us to be mindful of the impact we have on the places we inhabit.
And the people who call those places home.
It's all about recognizing our interconnectedness.
Our actions have ripple effects. We need to remember that.
Though, you know what?
What?
It really is a collection of gems.
It is.
So much insight and imagination packed into each story.
A mosaic of brilliant idea.
Exactly. And speaking of gems, how about we talk about the ones who stay and fight?
Ooh, that one really makes you question what utopia really means.
And the lengths we might go to achieve peace.
Right, because in the story, they have this perfect society. No violence, no inequality, but there's a catch.
There's always a catch, isn't there?
Always. They have to constantly be on guard, watching for anything that could disrupt their way of life.
It's fascinating how Jemisin flips that traditional utopia on its head.
It's not some blissful paradise. It's peace, but it's almost enforced. Makes you wonder, is that kind of control really worth it?
Big questions, right? Ones that resonate with what's going on in the world today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Security versus freedom, the balance of power. This story just sparks all those thoughts.
It really makes you think about what a truly equitable society would look like. It reminds me of another theme that runs throughout this collection.
No, which one?
That idea that progress, change, it usually comes at a price.
You're right. We see it in Stone Hunger with the environmental damage, and in Righteous Fury, where characters make some tough moral compromises in the pursuit of justice.
Jemisin doesn't shy away from those hard choices.
Nope. She makes us face them head on.
Because there are no easy answers to these complex problems.
Even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. We need to acknowledge those complexities.
And talk about them. Engage in thoughtful discussion.
Speaking of Stone Hunger, that story packs a punch.
A powerful message about what happens when we exploit the planet's resources without considering the consequences. It's a warning, for sure. We're not separate from nature, we're a part of it. And our actions have an impact.
And Stone Hunger really drives that point home with its imagery of the earth in pain. It's a wake-up call, telling us to be more mindful of what we consume.
And to push for policies that protect the environment.
For ourselves and for future generations, absolutely. So, shifting gears a bit, what did you think about The Matter of the Red Fox?
Oh, I loved it. That magical realism. So intriguing.
Especially that symbolism with the fox.
Right. It felt so primal, almost like a connection to a wilder part of ourselves.
Foxes are often linked to cunning and intelligence in folklore.
I know, right? But in this story, it felt like something more. Almost a reminder of our instincts, those parts of us we try to hide.
It's like the fox is a guide in the story, leading the main character on this journey of self-discovery, reminding her of the power she has inside.
And that contrast with the conformity and expectations of society.
Exactly. The story makes you think maybe there's a part of us that longs for that freedom, that connection to something bigger.
A return to our roots.
I like that. It's a beautiful exploration of what it means to be human. That balance between belonging and being your own person. Before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on the audiobook format again.
It's amazing, isn't it?
All those narrators, it really elevates the whole experience.
Each one brings a unique voice to the characters, pulls you right into those worlds. I really feel like I'm part of the story.
And the diversity of the narrators just adds to that authenticity.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of representation, not just in the story itself, but in who's telling it.
It shows how powerful inclusive storytelling can be. Barely scratched the surface.
I know. It's incredible how much depth and complexity there is to uncover. Like we said before, a real collection of gems.
Speaking of mind-bending, we have to talk about the Trojan Girl.
Ooh, yes. That one really pushes the limits of imagination.
It does. The way she blends political intrigue with alien encounters and then throws in coming-of-age themes on top of that.
Masterful storytelling.
Jemisin at her best. I was particularly drawn to how she explores identity.
Especially for young women.
Right. They're trying to find their place in a world that's constantly trying to define them.
It's a powerful statement about those societal pressures and expectations.
Especially for women of color.
But Jemisin doesn't just focus on the struggles.
No, she highlights their resilience and strength, too.
Shows us their determination to define themselves on their own terms.
Such an important message, and it resonates with everyone, not just young women.
It reminds us that we all have the power to shape our own destinies, even when it feels like the world is trying to box us in. Before we move on, I'm curious to hear more of your thoughts on the audiobook. We've talked about the narrators, but what overall impact did it have for you as a listener?
It truly elevates the experience. The different narrators, they bring each character to life in such a unique way. It's like we're right there with them.
It's immersive.
It is, like a live performance unfolding in your ears. Each narrator captures the nuances of their character's voice, the emotions, their whole experience.
It's intimate and engaging. And of course, the diversity of the narrators is so important.
It really is. It adds so much authenticity and richness to the listening experience. Just another example of the power of inclusive storytelling.
Absolutely. It expands our understanding of the world and exposes us to different voices and perspectives. So, well done to the audiobook producers. Okay, I did want to touch on Our Lady of the Open Road.
Oh, yes.
Such a celebration of art and its power.
Especially in a world that's broken.
Exactly. The protagonist, a musician, she's traveling through this post-apocalyptic landscape, and she uses her music to bring people together, to offer comfort and hope. It's really moving.
I found it so inspiring. It shows that even in the darkest of times, art can be a powerful force.
It connects us, reminds us of our shared humanity.
And it's not just about passive entertainment. Art can be a catalyst for change.
A way to challenge the status quo.
And inspire others to fight for a better future.
Our Lady of the Open Road reminds us that creativity can be a powerful tool for social commentary.
For raising awareness, for sparking those crucial conversations that lead to action. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible collection, that title, How Long Till Black Future Month, just keeps echoing in my mind.
I know, right? It really stays with you.
It's more than just a question, it's a challenge. It's a vision.
A vision of a future where Black voices are not just heard, but truly valued.
Where Black perspectives are woven into the fabric of our culture.
Jemisin is pushing us to break down those barriers, to dismantle those systems of oppression.
And create a world where Black stories are celebrated simply for being what they are. Powerful, insightful, and human.
Absolutely. And I think that message goes beyond just Black stories. It's about recognizing the value of all marginalized voices.
Creating a future where everyone has the opportunity to share their stories and be heard.
How long till Black Future Month? It's not just about imagining that future, it's about actively building it.
And that's what makes this collection so important. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to be part of that change.
So as we conclude our deep dive, what is the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this conversation?
I hope they'll see the power of speculative fiction to make us think critically about the world and to challenge those deeply ingrained assumptions. But even more importantly, I hope they feel inspired to act, to use their voices, to fight for a more just and equitable future for all, because stories have the power to change the world, one reader, one listener, one conversation at a time.
Well said. So keep reading, keep listening, and keep those minds open. And until next time, keep diving deep.
February's breeze echoes the past. Same cold for birds flown, learning to last. Through pages that whisper lessons untold. Goddess garden looms, stories unfold. Reflection with strength, like rivers flow. In books we rise, that our spirits glow. GGBC reading, challenge transforming. February's dreams live as a cycle for bird, where past and future